Let me see if I can get this all back. Okay, I'm going to start now because I want to stick with the timing and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate Leonardo. Is it Leonardo? Thank you.
Correct.
And I don't know who this other person is yet, El Duran. But I so appreciate you guys being here. And I want to just introduce myself so you get a bit of a backstory of who I am and why I'm doing this. So I climbed for a really long time and got into guiding and all that kind of stuff. And when I was in my climbing experience, I, had all the physical things to be a great climber high. But I realized that no matter how hard I physically trained, I would still have barriers in my mind. And I was like, okay, I could do all the physical training in the world, have all the diet and the supplements going on, but if I don't have it together internally, if I don't believe in myself, and if I have like mental barriers, I'm just not going to get to where I want to go. So I took a break from climbing and began to explore more of the inner worlds and tried to find out more about the barriers to the mind. And so with this presentation, I'd like to show you what I've learned in my training and how I'm now at the process of re-emerging back into climbing, but with a better mindset. So, okay, so let's see if I can master this screen sharing. And by the way, just because it's a really clear example, the thing I'm doing now, I like to think of every time I am doing something that's outside of my comfort zone, I think of it as training for climbing, because it's always about getting used to moving through fear. So even now, because I'm doing a skill that's a little bit outside my comfort zone, I just feel like, man, I'm above the bolt right now. I'm just going to breathe and get used to getting outside my comfort zone, because this is what it's all about. Okay, so screen share. Can you guys see this?
Not yet. I can still see you. Before though, you had it.
Can you see this?
No.
Yes.
You had it at the beginning though.
Oh, you can't see this now?
No, I can still see you.
Okay. Okay. This?
Something, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is the beginning. Okay, that's my company, The Conscious Climber, and that's our theme song. We actually made a full-on song, which is going to come out later with our in a commercial. But anyways, The Conscious Climber. So that's the idea of climbing, but you're going deeper into the mind and understanding mental barriers. Okay, so everybody can see this now?
Yeah.
Okay, so years ago, I had the idea after 8 or 9 years of full-time climbing, where I barely even had to work. I was able to just climb. I had this really unique experience. But like I said, I got to the point where it was like, there's more going on here than just physical training. So I kind of had this thesis, this idea of, if I address fear in my life, will it affect my climbing positively? So that's kind of the notion and the question I began with. So basically what I experienced was that physical performance is limited by the climber's state of mind. Every time you go up climbing, you're bringing up your whole state of mind with you. Okay, so here we go. So if I'm going climbing, but I have a lot of loose ends in my life, or I'm stressing in other departments, it's going to really interfere with the smooth functioning of my movement and my body on the rock. Okay, so what is all that stuff going on in there? Okay, so this 12% up here, our regular waking mind, is the one that we're using generally, or the one that we want to be using when we're climbing. That's where like willpower comes. However, if you've ever been in the experience where you mentally want to do one thing, but your emotions in your body are doing something else, it's generally because something's going on down here in the subconscious. if you've got limiting beliefs about your abilities, if you've got emotions coming up, or you've got, you're imagining the worst case scenarios, you've got sort of fight or flight reaction going on. It's this driving force is down here in our subconscious mind. Okay, so we like to think that we're all just, going to think about it and we're going to just do it. But we have a lot of programming that goes on on a subconscious level that's actually developed in our younger years. And you know how each people, like everybody could go and do a route. Say you go to the crag and some people, they go up and they climb and they fall and they do this and that. And you're like, wow, you clearly have no fear. Like it's not a problem for you. But for some people, it will be, much harder to do because, well, the truth is we all have different impressions and different states of mind. And so it's beginning to understand where those programs are stored, and then ultimately how to rewrite the programs so we've cleared up our mind, so our mind and our body connect better and there's less limiting interference. So, and if anytime you guys have questions, like as I go, just feel free to pop in and I can help clarify. But okay, so that's just the gist, like that, 10% of your mind is your short-term memory, logical thinking, critical thinking, but so much of how we operate is to do with those subconscious programming. Okay, so conscious climbing, we're aiming for skill in action, and that depends on mind-body coordination. The problem is anxiety, stress, and fear in your mind also registers in your brain and nervous system, making your body uncoordinated. Anxiety and fear in your mind interferes with smooth, orderly functioning of bodily movements. If your body is uncoordinated, you cannot have skill in action. Okay, so a solution, or the opposite, is orderly thinking creates orderly activity in your physical body and therefore health and well-being. A tranquil mind produces a tranquil body, which increases mind-body coordination and performance. So start with the mind first. This is the theory. So much in climbing is often, let's train the fingers, let's practice falling, it's very, very physically oriented, but I really believe the root cause is much deeper in terms of smoothing out your mental waves. And this is, I like meditation and yoga and all that kind of stuff. And so I think we go with a top-down approach, mind first. Okay, so we kind of switch gears here at this point in terms of, say you have a goal and it's a far off goal, whatever that is, if that's something to do with your professional life or your climbing world. I really believe, we're all kind of seeking that thing that lights us up, that inspires us. And you often hear of your dreams should be so big that they scare you kind of thing. So listen inside for your particular goal or the thing that lights you up and you're inspired by, and then take, for example, these here. So my goal is conscious climbing and bringing this to life. But if you're familiar with the rock climbing world, you've also heard of the Dawn Wall, Free Solo, that movie where he, does the triple solos in Yosemite, or Sleepwalker, which Daniel Woods just did that, I think is V16 or something Boulder, or Midnight Lightning with Lonnie Kaup doing that super hard trad line 14C. The point here is, take the Dawn Wall, for example. That thing was super, super hard. And he stepped to it not knowing that if it was even possible. So even with whatever climb we approach, even if it's a 5-7, but we approach it and we go, how are we going to do this? There's a process to getting to your goal, and understanding that it's a process and understanding that you can really click your mind into that process oriented mode really helps you to get to your goal. The energy behind completing a goal, especially a big daunting one, is you're gonna, it's an energy. You know you've got the right goal when you have consistent energy, like it lights you up, it makes you feel alive, you feel good thinking about it. This is when you know you're on the right track to your right goal. And inspiration, desire, preparation, practice, perseverance, intent, willpower, sacrifice, development, and belief. These are all kind of key things that are going to help you get closer to where you want to go. And also, when you select a big goal, your process to getting there is going to develop you as a human being. You're going to grow, and that's the best part of a big goal. Okay, so another thing, when you have a big goal, belief is key. And as you progress towards your goal, especially when it's really, really big, your job is to believe it in your mind. And quite literally, anything you think of that isn't in alignment with your goal or your dream is the illusion, is the limiting thought that's interfering with your performance in the first place. If our goal is to strengthen the mind-body connection, the limiting thoughts, the doubt, the uncertainty, the disbelief, anything that's going on internally that is not for you and positive in relation to your goal is a lie. It's the illusion, they always say, like, fear, false evidence appearing real. If you begin to truly apply these things, all the quotes, all the cliches, if you live by it, you begin to learn that they're not just things. It's actually real. It's a really real process. So with your belief, anything that gets in the way, any limiting thought, we want to clear that. That's clearing your mind. That's getting your mind and body working together in a coordinated way. Okay, so when I first had the inspiration for conscious climbing, I was quite literally, I had a tent in Skaha Bluffs. I was on the end of like 8 years of climbing as a dirtbag. At that time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I was reading a lot, writing a lot. I was also really physically cleansed. I was, hardcore vegan at the time, exercising so many hours a day. So I was really purified, like internally, physically, but I still had all my subconscious programming going on, right? But I was pushing my bike up the hill back to my tent one day when all of a sudden it was like, boom, the conscious climbing. It just like the words just appeared to me, and I had no idea what conscious even meant. Within a week, I happened to meet someone that in Penticton that led me to this grassroots spiritual school, which I ended up attending for like 4 or 5 years. The main takeaway here, well, first of all, when you get that idea inside yourself, it's like, I think about that cartoon movie Soul. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. It's the little animation movie where they're like little spirits, and they have a purpose. They come in and you've got your purpose. So if you ever hear inside yourself, if an idea sparks you up, I say follow it. It's a evolutionary impulse, as they say. But anyways, at this spiritual school, the main takeaway that I learned was that thinking is creative energy. It either brings you up or it brings you down. It's up to you whether you're steering your ship up or down, pretty much. Thoughts are things. Thoughts have energy behind them. If you think badly about yourself, so to go back to here, if you thinking creates feeling, feeling creates action. It has this precipitory top-down effect. So the thinking drives the feeling drives the action. How does this relate to climbing? Thinking, first of all, thinking and feeling, if you go back and see the iceberg chart with the mind and the subconscious, again, we can think one thing, but a lot of our feelings are stored in that subconscious. And I'll give you some tips on how to clear your subconscious so those work together. But anyways, the keynote here is that thoughts are creative, thoughts create feelings, which create actions. So again, we get to program what we think, and that's our one of the keys and one of the gifts that we have is to be able to, influence our experience by changing our mind to the program, the channel we want to listen to. And this isn't new. This isn't a reinvention of the wheel. There's so many quotes and so much literature about, thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. So again, in cleaning up the mind so that it's in line with what you want to achieve. So mind over matter. If I want to change my experience, then I need to change my mind. So again, thoughts, but really it's coming back down to those core beliefs. And often those core beliefs are formed at young ages. So again, if you've got a goal and there's something that's getting in the way of that, you want to look in at your core belief. What is it that you believe to be true? And is it actually true? And is it in alignment with where you want to go? We have the key to be able to change that, to change our experience and get closer to our goals on the way to climbing the dawn wall. If Tommy never believed he could do it, if he didn't think he was good enough, if he had any form of self-doubt, he would never get the results that he wanted. He would never stick with it and get to the top. Okay, so again, that subconscious mind carries a lot of the heaviness, a lot of the stuff that is causes a lot of underlying stress and a lot of feelings of uncertainty. And so this is very modern psychology that helps to clear the blocks to performance. These things have been around for a long time, but there's a lot more new, science behind this now, and a lot more evidence and more studies that these are really proven to help change the programming so it's on the right channel. So of course you've heard of affirmations, because the subconscious speaks in repetition. So the more that you're programming it with the thoughts that you want, that really helps. Hypnosis, of course, that gets kind of a cheesy rap, but there's incredible therapists that really help go beyond your everyday mind to get into deeper levels, to be able to clear up things that might be interfering. Plant medicines, of course, it's good to do those with therapists, but generally you've probably heard of ayahuasca and mushrooms and all these kinds of experiences. All they really do is show you what you're holding, what's been sort of held in your state of mind for a long time, and gives you a chance to face your fears and move through those illusions. EMDR, meditation, art, color, symbols, visualization, inner child healing, because again, a lot of those programs come from when you're a kid, and releasing trauma. Hadarota. So these are different models for clearing up that subconscious mind so there's less interference between what you think and what you want to do. Again, the mind being the gateway. It is really the door to the experience, and we've got the key. So it's always that internal work of what we can clear up, the stuff that isn't in alignment with where we want to go. Mind's the key. Can't really change too much on the outside. You're going to expend a lot of energy just trying to get stronger. The key, or the takeaway I learned, was that you can't out-train fear. Doesn't matter how many pull-ups you can do, doesn't matter how many finger things you can do and stuff. Your climbing will always be dependent on how strong you are. But if you want to climb long-term in your life, there's going to be lots of ups and downs, and sometimes you're not always going to be able to train this hard physically, but you can always train the internal world. You can always be training, facing fears, and cleaning up the dialogue. Dorota, do you have a question? That's just a high five?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so the learning process, I think that says process. The The thing is, when you're learning a new skill, even if you're applying yourself to it daily, you've probably heard of the 10,000 hour rule. Learning something is like a chapter in your life, and a chapter or a cycle in nature generally tends to be 7 to 10 years. You'll find that if we're ever learning something or we're ever trying to master something, it actually takes a pretty good chunk of time. It's not something that happens overnight. So understanding that these things are a process and that they take time to, integrate, educate, and apply to yourself is really key to just cutting yourself some slack and understanding that it's always is the journey to get to where you want to go. Okay, so I love this quote from Tommy Caldwell. He's got a great TED Talk, by the way. I think Tommy's a really inspiring human as well as climber. So the quote here says, as a climber, you want to find something that looks absurd and figure out how to do it. When I was guiding, I still am, but as a rock guide in Squamish and Skaha, it was so interesting how often my guests were engineers or programmers. Climbers are natural problem solvers. We have this, I really feel like the people who climb are actually incredibly intelligent, and we're always trying to solve problems, right? So I love how he says here, you want to find something that looks absurd and figure out how to do it. So again, with whatever lights you up and inspires you, it's always about engineering, and you're just simply solving a problem. And so understanding that it's a process to solving the problem. So begin the learning process. These are all kind of stages or steps to the process. Generally starts with inspiration. You want to be inspired by something, whether that's a particular multi-pitch you want to do this year, or it's a single pitch climb you want to do, or it's whatever the case is, let it be led with inspiration. Inspiration feels like aliveness. It feels like energy. It gives you energy. So that is a key thing for determining, where is it that I want to go? Something that lights you up, that's inspiration. And that is the invitation to step through that door and take that path. Next, you're generally going to want to educate yourself on it, in climbing, whether that's, learning the anchors you need for a multi-pitch. If you're going to be doing a trad route and you got to learn how to set up a gear anchor, different configurations, educate yourself on what it is you want to learn. In this case, the mind-body connection, really understanding your own subconscious programs is really key. What is holding me back? Why do I feel so uncertain about myself? Where did that start? And how then can I go back in and rewrite the code? And again, connecting with great therapists for these things. You probably didn't expect to hear this, but connecting with great hypnotherapists, EMDR therapists, any type of therapy to go into your subconscious is really key to clearing these things up. Application, just doing the thing, just stepping to your dream right away, just begin. That's how you're going to learn. What's this thing shining up here? Chats. Preparation, make sure you got the gear that you need to do the job. This is pretty self-explanatory. Trial and error, don't be afraid to fail. You just got to try. It's like taking whippers and falls. That's just part of the sending process. Progression, you're going to naturally progress. So make sure you take note and celebrate the progression. There's going to be an expansive feeling as you grow with following your dream. You're going to feel bigger. You're going to feel like you can do more. You're going to adapt to new things. Humans are incredibly adaptable, whether that's to physical stimulus or mental stimulus. Trust that you're going to adapt to the workload that you're taking on. And then growth. In the learning process, you're going to grow a lot. So that's why it's really key to have these goals for yourself and to step to them. Okay, I guess we're getting near the end already. So work with me when I have conscious climbing clinics. I'll be probably at the Arc'teryx Academy again this year, teaching just more about this stuff, and it's especially fun to do on the wall because we can just immediately have dialogue around what's coming up for you. Climbing is this incredible mirror that you get to see, hey, what is coming up in this sphere? Is it like, because I don't trust my belayer, why don't I trust them? What is the underlying thinking and feeling behind my whatever's coming up? Also mind tools. This is a mental training tool I made for climbers. And of course, it's got colors and it's got words to help you on your journey, to help you send, basically. And that's basically it. So thank you in all those different languages. And if you want to see more of my stuff, theconsciousclimber.com and theconsciousclimber@gmail.com. And then there's like a quick little video clip. If you know this route in Squamish.
That clean crack?
What is it?
Is that clean crack? No, it's not. It looks like it.
No, that's actually mushroom.
Oh.
Which is here we go. Mushroom is a top 100.59, and it's
Papoose,
on the
right?
right of the papoose.
Papoose, yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, guys, that is my little presentation on just the mind-body connection, and that when you're facing fear in climbing, we each have our own unique set of beliefs and thoughts and just stuff. And the deeper you dive into that, the more, expansive your experiences can be. And that it's not all about physical training, but you can actually make a lot of gains by doing internal training. So that's kind of the scoop. And do you guys have questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
As a guide or as a coach, people that you've met, when you talk about people's beliefs and their negative beliefs, like what would be an example? Like for me, my big belief is like fear of falling. Is there how common is that belief, or is that just one of many other beliefs that people have, or is that the biggest fear people have?
I think it's absolutely the biggest fear, and I experienced a lot myself. And for me, I had to get a bigger why. My why of why I want to go into that zone has to be bigger than anything, because otherwise, why would I want to put myself in a situation where I could get hurt? Pretty much is kind of my default thinking. So I remember at the beginning of this conversation, I said, as I was trying to screen share and stuff, I go, hey, this is kind of what it's like to climb above my bolt. I'm feeling nervous. I'm having to breathe. So where I'm going with this is when you're feeling a lot of fear, having a bigger why of like, okay, this is the fear emotion right now. How can I learn to actually move through this? And, because they say, fear is excitement without breath. So sometimes in my own experience, when I feel fear or stress or overwhelm, my tendency prior to doing sort of this work is that I like kind of shut down and run away, stay in my comfort zone. So almost like when you're moving through fear and you're in the fall zone, the bigger why could be like, I really want to move beyond my comfort zone. And guess what? This is exactly what it feels like. Fear is the emotion that's going to, it's just simply wants to keep you safe into what it knows, but it's going to show up in so many different areas. And when we want to expand and have a better experience, because we know we can do that route. We know we can do that thing. Fear is always going to try to just keep us safe. That's kind of its job. But if we can learn to breathe through it and to know that actually this is just me handling stress right now. This is like, how can I handle this stress in a way and breathe through it? I think connecting to your why and also understanding fear in context can be helpful to addressing it on the wall, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, but it's super common, and God, it's so tricky when you're out there and you're literally like, I don't want to get hurt. My body feels so tense. So I think this is why I like to practice feet on the ground in real life facing fear, because it's one thing to face it right on the wall, but I feel like in everyday life, when you can find situations that you want to do, but you're going to get stressed out, you're going to get a little bit nervous, sort of not dividing your climbing in your life in a way that you're like, okay, wow, I'm feeling the stress right now. What am I going to do to calm my nervous system? And again, think about what sort of thoughts are in there. Because in my experience with climbing, often I have a thought of like, maybe I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for this, or I really doubt my decision making. So these are some of the programs that are going on for me. And again, to go back to the subconscious thing, that's the kind of stuff I want to clear up, because it's kind of the illusions. Those are kind of the false evidence appearing real. That makes sense. So you want to keep playing with that kind of thing and just find examples in your life of things you're fearful of and just see if you can move through that with breath. And then, yeah, get a good why of why you want to move through fear when you're climbing. So I would say. Dorota? Your hand's up. Do you have a question? You're muted.
All right. How about now? Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. How about focus? How about actually stay focused on the route?
How do you stay focused?
Yeah.
How do you think you stay focused?
It's so hard. I am nuts sometimes.
I literally believe that climbing is the advanced version of yoga or meditation, because focus is so key, and it's about holding your belief, your intent for a long period of time uninterrupted. Like, so it's
exactly,
yeah, so it's like it's mind control, really, and it's not letting our emotions control us. So again, so mind control, your intention. I'm going up this thing, and granted, climbing is so much more complex than pretty much anything, because there's so many varying factors. Like, let's be honest, it's a really complex game. But ultimately, it's what we do have control over is ultimately when we train, and remember, go back to the 9-year cycle to learn a new skill, but to control those emotions. So our focus remains laser focused, no matter, we're steering a ship, like a rocket ship, and we're going through space, but we're going to hold the steering wheel, but it's like rocking, but we're going, and we're going to land like on the top. That's the kind of like laser focus and intent you have to have on your goals, or the route that you step to, is just lock on intention. And then any limiting belief, any doubt, any insecurity, that's the debris in space that we're driving through, basically.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wonder, do you do any, or have you done any big wall climbing, Catherine?
I've done obviously Squamish, the Eldred Valley, the Ghost River, routes in Alberta, but I haven't done anything. I don't know what's considered, I don't know the definition for big walls.
Like multi-day or like 8 climbing?
I've done unintentional multi-day, but no, I never have done super huge walls.
because my issue is even today, I do what I like to do. What I like to think I like to do is solo 8 climbing multi-pitch. And when I do multiple days in a row, my issue is keeping focus like for days on end. So even
Yeah.
we tried to go on the nose 3 times, and we had the skills, we had the stamina, we had the everything, but the ability. Well, my partner was fine, but I had issues on breaking down that gigantic thing into small pieces, and just keep going bit by bit. So we had to bail 3 times off the nose, right? Not because of the stamina, not because of the skills, it's just because of this mental thing. And even today, this morning, I went climbing on the chief, and a big part is exposure, and then I didn't really trust my system. So then in the afternoon, what I did, I went and took some falls just to make sure the system is okay. But still, yeah. So I wonder if you have any advice to keep that focus for like long, like 10, 12 hours, or very intense belief and focus, because I find where I can do pretty much anything for 2 hours, but then keeping it for a long time, it's very, very draining, very, very draining. And I don't know how to train it. Yeah.
Well, I think you pretty much just nailed it in the last words that you said there, which is draining. In other words, it's mental, it's exhaustion on, it can sometimes not be about a focus problem, but like a depletion of your adrenal system, or just your mental, like
I think it's fear, anxiety and fear that stays for 5-6 hours in a row. And then I can't, when I get to the end of the pitch, I'm like, I'm not going to the next pitch, I'm going down,
Yeah.
So keeping that, okay, we're good, let's have a sandwich and then do another pitch. That's the problem. So I find myself doing a lot of 1-2 pitches and then be like, no, let's go home.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's such an I mean, you're really on the spectrum of like intensity in terms of climbing goes. Like that's, if you're going to be doing solo aid climbing on a big wall, it doesn't really get more involved than that on every single level, mental, emotional, physical. So to sustain that for a very long time, you're going to experience, what's another word for exhaustion? You're gonna just it's tiring to like the body needs time to recoup and recover, because your nervous system, it doesn't. I remember when I was in was doing experiences that were quite I would say more in the red zone, where you're kind of like
alpine climbing for a long time, or I'm trying to relate to something that you experience to get like an advice, because not everybody that do big wall climbing, but maybe they do a multi-pitch that it's really hard mentally for them, and or alpine climbing can be a really good example, where you're out there for 10-12 hours and you're not getting out of there until you're done,
I would say just it sounds like, well, first of all, it's the beginning of the year. You're getting back into it. So you're going to have to build up your endurance for what you can tolerate again. And to go back to the learning process, it could take multiple tries to get to the level that you want to do, where you're doing the nose. So just, accept it as part of the process, that you're going to push it, and then you're going to have to come back, and then you're going to have to go again, and then you're going to come back. Like the Dawn Wall took 7 years of consistent effort. So just understanding it's a process to be able to expand and adapt to the capacity required to do your task, to do what it is you want to do. So I think you're doing the right thing. You're stimulating yourself, and then you're taking the rest when you need to take the rest. And just listen, it's going to just be a natural process for you to complete your goals. Does that help in a way?
Yeah.
Just understanding it as a process that you're going to have to build stamina, and especially the level that you're requiring of yourself is a pretty high demand. So just understand that it's going to also require sort of an equal amount of rest and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you would want to reduce stresses, like, again, to go back to the mental thing, you're going to want to clear your mind so much that when you are doing your thing, when you're focusing to the degree that you don't have background noise, you don't have, you don't have other programs running, in a sense. Like, you've cleared up energy in your life, so everything else is pretty good. So you really are totally present, because you're going to want to really clear your mind, so that because it's requiring so much mental capacity for you to do what you're doing.
Yeah, there's some fears that I need to work through for sure.
Yeah. And just as long as, yeah. And I mean, because I haven't done exactly what you've done, it's harder for me to relate in terms of aid climbing and things like that. But I can imagine just sort of just the unknowing of maybe when the rug is going to be pulled out from under you, so to speak, just sort of that intensity.
I was actually thinking about that as I was driving home. It's like free climbing, you're like, you're about to fall, right? Where in aid climbing, you're always like, is it gonna pop now, kind of thing?
Guys, just before we continue on with that thought, I'm pretty new to Zoom, and it started at 5:30, and I believe it's a 40-minute session. So if it cancels, we can either just leave it at this, or we can re-click the link and come back in. So
I have to go soon. So
okay.
I'm very happy with this.
Okay. Well, it's nice that we all got a chance to talk and to meet each other and all that. And I would say that, yeah, we're all journeying together. So we're all just having these experiences together. And the key is, again, just learning how to reduce our stress, and also what is climbing reflecting to us about us. Because sometimes it's more than the climbing, it's deeper than the climbing, and we can go into ourselves, change our mind, change our experience, is pretty much the thought.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much, and have a really great rest of your day and climbing season. And I hope to see you guys out there soon.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That was great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Bye.
It was beautiful. Yeah, thanks.